Okay, you guys, so this is the packet that we use. Hey, you guys, if you have not watched this part 2 Generations Perspective yet, I will put that link up above and also in the description below, because Trinity really shares just about her experience dealing with suicidal ideation and how that all came about. So feel free to go and watch that. Other than that, continue to watch this video. Well, hello, school counselors and school counselors to be. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel, The Inspiring School Counselor. I am going to be giving you guys, my own personal experiences dealing with students that did not commit suicide or did not attempt to do it, but they have dealt with suicidal ideation. Even though this is a heavy topic and you don't want to have to discuss something like this, however, it's essential and it's happening and it's reality. And so with that being said, as a school counselor, it's so important to make sure that you are dealing with this the appropriate way, the right way, so that the student can get help and so that the parents can be aware and know how to provide the necessary resources for their child. And so with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and also make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a video. Okay, let's get into this topic. First of all, when you begin to really look at the times that we are living in right now, it's just suicide has been on the rise. And it's always been something that has been on the rise, especially amongst adolescents. I was looking up some information on suicide, and it says that suicide is the second leading cause of death in adolescents from 15 to 24 years of age. And that suicide ideation and the completion of, actually committing suicide after dealing with those thoughts, it is on the rise, especially since COVID. And for some of you guys that don't know, and I've mentioned it many times before, but for my new listeners out there, I am a primary school counselor. And just for me giving you those facts that I came across, and those were since 2017, that does not even include the age range that I deal with. And so many times, you're looking at elementary students that can be kind of just forgotten. You don't see many studies or you don't see much information on students that is in elementary, setting dealing with suicidal ideation or committing suicide. But it is real, it is happening, and it's something that should not be ignored. I believe as school counselors, it is so important for us not to dismiss the reality of just a student that is coming to us to let us know that they are dealing with suicidal ideation, or they have an exact plan of how they're going to carry it out, and try to blame it on, oh, they're just seeking out attention, or oh, they just don't want to do their homework, or they're mad at their friend for not letting them sit with them at lunch, and so they're just acting out. So we don't want to downplay that situation, even though those things might be true. So we want to make sure that we handle it the appropriate way, so that we can not only cover ourselves but also protect the student. I also think it's important for us to even meet with our faculty and staff and talk to them about the seriousness of a student that comes to them, or maybe they overhear a student talking about suicide or suicidal thoughts, that they come straight to you and let you know what's going on. And that is something that my school district just makes sure that they educate the faculty and staff on, that to take it serious, and that if they have any suspicion or if they hear about it or overheard a student that is talking about it, that they let the school counselor know. Okay, you guys, so this is the packet that we use, and I am just so grateful for this packet. And as you can see, it is pretty thick. This year alone, I have had to use this checklist 5, 6, maybe 7 times already. And then last year I had to use it about 5 times last year. So yes, this has become very beneficial in how I address the whole situation. But I love that they give us a whole protocol and a checklist, especially when you are a new school counselor coming in. The last thing that you want is to not have a checklist or something for a situation like this, and you end up, missing certain things, or you always have to ask questions of what do I do next. So I do love when coming into my school district that they gave us a whole checklist of what we should do. And they also provided everything that we need, the paperwork that we need for the parent to sign, as well as for the administrator and the school counselor to sign. Just everything is lined out really good. So I am going to go over this checklist with you guys. And this first step is mainly for if a faculty or staff that's outside of the school counselor is notified by the student that they want to commit suicide or they're dealing with suicidal ideations. This just lets them know who they can reach out to for help. And hopefully they know that they need to reach out to the school counselor. But who knows? Some teachers, they might not know. But what I really love in that first step that it mentions is to take all threats seriously. This is something that is so important, and I know I mentioned it before, but you have where certain teachers, they don't take what the child is saying seriously. They feel like the student is just seeking attention. And though that could be true, but what if it's not true? What if they really are dealing with, suicidal thoughts? What if they really do have a plan? So I love that the first step is to make sure you take all threats seriously. You don't want to play around with them. And then it lets the teacher or whoever comes in contact with the student outside of the school counselor, it lets them know that they need to make sure that they talk to the school counselor and letting them know immediately. And also it tells them not to leave the student. You guys, this is so important. When you are dealing with a student that is suicidal, you don't want to leave them by themselves, because they can grab anything in that classroom or wherever you are with them to try to harm themselves. And you want to make sure you keep them as safe as you can until they get into the school counselor's hands, okay? If you're a teacher watching this, and if you are a school counselor, you want to make sure that you keep them safe until they get the necessary help, whether it's the parents coming to get them, mobile crisis, the SRO, whoever that is in need in that situation, to lead them to safety. So you do not want to leave students. And then the next thing that it tells them to do, once that teacher lets me know what is going on, then me as a school counselor, I identify the risk that student is in. So I have to just make sure that I initially make contact with that student. I talk to them, I kind of get a feel of what is going on, what are some things that they're feeling like they want to do to themselves, and I just, talk to them. So the next thing that I do is I do a screener with that student, and I'm going to read that name for you guys because I don't want to mess it up. The screener that we use is the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, and I also do it with the triage. And so that basically, it gives me a list of questions to ask the student. And what I love is not like 30 questions that you have to ask that student. It's like 6 questions. But as you do each question, it will gear you towards whether you need to call mobile crisis or you don't need to call mobile crisis, and you can take other steps. I gather information regarding the suicidal ideation that they're having, the risk factors, as well as the protective factors. Then the next thing that I do is I determine the risk level on the screener, and then I take appropriate action. So if it is that student is really needing some severe help ASAP, they need help, then that screen will let me know you need to contact mobile crisis, and that's what I will do. With talking to the student, then I need to also put into account, is there any issues of abuse and neglect going on as well. So that's just something that I have to have in the back of my head when it is that I am talking with that student. And if there's abuse and neglect going on, if that comes out, then I also have to make sure that I reach out to DCS. The next thing that I need to do, if it is, let's just say, whether I call mobile crisis or not, I have to make sure that I contact that parent and letting them know, okay, your child is dealing with, a serious issue here at school and we're needing you to come in. If it is that I can't get in contact with that parent, then I need to send the SRO out to find that parent and let them know that, hey, you need to come to school and we need to have a serious talk because your child is going through a serious situation. And so I personally never had to do that. Every parent that I've called, they've always picked up and they've always came to the school. If there is a parent that refuses to come to the school, then we then have to talk to DCS. That's a non-negotiable thing. If it is that I call them and I say, hey, Mr. Taylor, that's an example. Mr. Taylor, your child is showing suicidal ideation. We need you to come to school. If Mr. Taylor says, no, I'm not coming to the school, then the next step that I have to do is I call DCS. And then I document that the parent refuses to come to the school so that we can discuss the next steps. So if it is that the parent decides to come to the school, there is a list of forms that they have to sign. And so in meeting with the parent, we do the acknowledgement of notification. So they are basically acknowledging that their student is dealing with, suicidal ideation or have a plan for suicide. And so basically that part covers the school. It covers us that we did take the necessary steps and we let the parent know. Because the last thing you want is for parents to say, the school never reached out to me, and you did, but you don't have it written down anywhere. So you want to make sure that you write down your notes. The next thing that we do is we give the parents a list of suicide warning signs. So this is just basically information to give to them so that they know what to look out for. We also do a consent of contact. So if there's ever a time that I need to refer them to a therapist, then I'm able to do that because the parent gave me consent that I would be able to do that. One thing that I always make sure that I do, not only do I have copies of the forms and everything that they're signing, but I also make sure I make copies for them so that they can also have it in their possession as well. But I explain my school's response and the need for immediate follow-up. And so I just make sure that I just lay it out to them just how serious this is. And I also make sure that I give my parents resources that they can reach out to whether they ask for it or not. Like if they came to the school to meet with me and they're signing all these papers, I just go ahead and I include the resources with all the information that I give them so that I can just make sure that they have everything that they need if they ever need to use any of those resources that I give them. The next thing that we do is we just come up with a safety plan for us to follow here at school, as well as we also give the parents a suicide proofing for their home. So it gives them a list of different things that they need to make sure that they have in place before that child comes home, so that the child can be protected. Then the next thing that I do, and this is basically how I feel and if I feel like I need to reach out to these people or not, but I can contact urgent care or behavioral health for feedback on anything. And that's if it is that it goes all the way out to me contacting mobile crisis. But basically it's just recommendations that may be provided for the school regarding the situation. Now the next thing, if it is that the student is departing from the school, the only way that that student can depart from the school is if the parent is there, DCS, or law enforcement. Other than that, they stay at that school until one of those people, or if not all, are in place to bring that child to where they need to go. If it is that that student leaves the school without any authorization, then I have to immediately make sure that I call law enforcement. However, with the grade levels that I deal with, which is just pre-K through second grade, I don't really see that really applying to me. But however, it will definitely apply to, the middle school and the high schoolers. But I have to just make sure that if it does ever happen here, that I contact law enforcement. If it is that the child needs to go to the emergency room, and if there's no parent that's available, if DCS is not available, if law enforcement hasn't showed up yet, then I have to make sure that I go to that emergency room with that student. So that's something that they really, push, because you don't want them to go by themselves. They need help. So I have to make sure that I accompany that student. And then the next thing we have to do is plan for the student's return. So this part is the form that I give to the parents for them to sign, that basically gives a release of information to the faculty and staff. And I don't give it to the whole school, but just the teachers that student will come in contact with. And so this is just so that the ones that are in contact with the student can be on the lookout, so that that child can be safe. And then the last thing that I have to make sure I do is do a follow-up meeting. Check up on the students, see how they're doing. And this also can include for the parent to be there to see how he's also doing at home. And so that is just to check on the child's well-being. So that is my checklist that we follow here in my school district, just to make sure that the child is getting the help necessary. So I hope you guys were able to get a lot of good information just from me sharing with you guys my protocol that we do here in my school district. But stay tuned for part 2 of this video. It's probably gonna be multiple parts, just because this is such a intensive process in dealing with students with suicide. And so I just want to make sure that I'm giving you all the information that I can possibly think of to help you guys in this time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If it is that you guys use an assessment, a scale or anything, put it down below if you guys can, because I would like to also look at the scale as well and kind of just compare and contrast to what we use. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel, The Inspiring School Counselor. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and also make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. I will see you guys next time.